Greetings, everyone. I'm Luke Bryan Smith, and welcome to Enlightened, Empowered, Evolved. I hope everybody's doing well. Wait, I know everybody's doing well, and everything is unfolding perfectly. Even if it doesn't seem like it, everything is happening exactly as it should. We can always learn something through everything, no matter what. I'm excited yet again because I just continue. I'm so blessed to encounter and attract and such amazing people, such extraordinary people from all walks, from all levels of life in different regions, overseas, other states. And it just excites me. So if I get a little bit ahead of myself, please forgive me. But I have another amazing woman, an amazing person, Ashley Baskerville today. And before she tells you more about her amazing gifts, talents, passions, goals, accomplishments, I'm going to tell you a bit about it. So listen up, because you don't want to miss any of this. And you know what? Let me just be honest, because if you watch my show, I'm just nothing's structured, planned in a box at all. So I'm gonna be honest with you. At first, when I saw this bio that she sent me, and this has happened before, I was gonna send her a capital letters short bio. I said short bio, but it is hard to sum up such an extraordinary person. So I didn't do that. I said, I'm going to read this entire bio because I couldn't even figure out a way myself to sum it up. It's such extraordinary. She's such an extraordinary woman. So without further ado, let me get started. I'm rambling on. Anyway, so Ashley Baskerville. Okay. Growing up in California, Ashley Baskerville developed a passion for helping others and the competitive nature in sports. She developed a competitive nature in sports, okay? While dealing with anxiety for most of her youth, she realized the importance of mental health and how the stigma needs to change in our society. I resonate with that totally. Ashley went on to get her master's from Cal State Long Beach in sport and performance psychology after spending some time teaching literacy for the AmeriCorps. Wow. She now works as an embedded performance expert for the Army, teaching soldiers and family members mental toughness and resilience. She also is the owner of her own sports psychology consulting business, where she helps athletes take their game to the next level by breaking down the mental barriers and pressures that can get in the way. Ashley has held the honor of presenting at the Applied Association of Sport Psychology and International Conference. Wow. She will also be presenting twice again this year. Very impressive. She was also a speaker at the 2021 DOD Suicide Prevention Summit. Ashley also hosts a podcast called Hoop Mentality that breaks down the mental components of athletes' performances and aims to look at sports from non-conventional angles. Her hobbies include coaching, Special Olympics, reading, and DIY projects at home. Ashley wants nothing more than to show the world the strength in prioritizing our mental health by creating a platform that allows people to do that. Wow. I stumbled a couple of times on some things because I'm just myself just so inspired and impressed with this resume. It's just absolutely amazing. How are you doing today, Ashley Baskerville?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on today.
Yes, I appreciate you very much taking some of your time out of your busy schedule, out of your life to spend with me, because as I've said many times before, I believe time, even though I've heard that time is just an illusion, but I believe that time is the most precious asset, including with our health. So, because we never get this moment back again. So for you to
Exactly.
choose to spend a moment of your time, to give me a moment of your time, that to me is worth more than all the gold in the world, because you're choosing to spend, we only have a certain amount of time here on this earth, and you're choosing to spend some of it here. And I applaud and appreciate you being here today. So
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
let's get right into it. So, I mean, I don't even know where to begin, but how did you get into this passion for helping others in sports? How did that all come about? Have you always been an athlete? I mean, what how did this begin?
So I started playing sports when I was really young, probably 2, 3 years old. I was in my first league, basketball league. My family is full of athletes. Everybody played sports. So early on, it became a passion for me. And as I got older, I started realizing that helping others fall in love with what I enjoyed so much was something I enjoyed as well. So being able to do youth coaching, but helping others also was something that my parents really enforced in us at a young age. I remember being in 4th grade and volunteering at different services. Even in high school, we had to do, I think, 100 hours of community service. I ended up graduating with 3,000 hours of community service, between helping to coach or working with foster kids or whatever it may be. I think it's our duty as individuals to do what we can for others. We all have to live in this world together and coexist. And why not help somebody else if you can? If you have the skill set, why not do it?
Right, right. That is amazing. And let's back it up a little bit. And I should have probably talked about this first. So, and the reason why I can resonate with this is because I too have encountered, like I mentioned prior to this segment, that I experienced a lot of anxiety. So were you able to subside that, to eradicate that anxiety? Was it through your working with other people and helping yourself? I mean, how did that come? How did that develop?
I think for me, it's not so much ever fully getting rid of the anxiety. I've
Right,
just
right,
learned to accept it and embrace it and realize a lot of the times I'm anxious is because it's something that's important to me. And so changing the perspective and being kind of like, okay, I'm fortunate to have this experience where something matters enough to me that I have butterflies in my stomach or I'm feeling overwhelmed. I really started to learn skills, whether it be helping others, right? Giving
right.
myself that perspective of what I'm going through isn't as bad, or there are other people out there that still need me to show up to the best of my ability. And then learning skills through psychology and learning how to help manage my anxiety was something that I wanted to start sharing with other people, because I
Right.
know I'm not the only one who feels anxious sometimes or gets those feelings. So why not help other people get through that?
Absolutely. And yet again, I have to express this, that through our own difficulties and challenges and adversities, if you will, that is the best preparation to be able to help people, because you can be sensitive and very intuitive in regards to that, because you've been through it yourself. So I mean, it's not just something that you just study. Um, and I'm not discrediting study, because I study all the time. I'm constantly educating myself, and I love learning from reading and learning new things from extraordinary people such as yourself. So it's a beautiful thing, and I commend you on using your adversities to not only to gain an insight and a further understanding for yourself, but to not just keeping that knowledge for yourself, but to knowing that you do have a responsibility to reach out and help, others. And that's, again, and I know people they hear me say this all the time, but that's one of the core reasons why I created this platform, was because I wanted to share not only my experiences and insights and answers and wisdom and knowledge that I'm gaining through just my journey and intentional studies and whatnot, research, but have other people, come share things that other people, you never know who's going to resonate with what you say and or identify, and I believe there's pockets of people everywhere that share some of the same experiences, and I believe this is beautiful. So you work with athletes,
Mm-hmm.
and how did that come about? And tell me how that, not only how that came about, but tell me the process with that. Like, how'd you get into that? I mean, I want to work with some athletes. I want to talk to some athletes. How did you do that?
So for me, being an athlete, I realized actually, I'll even go further back. I was a huge Kobe Bryant fan growing up. Huge growing up in California, a Lakers fan, right? Watching him play. And I remember watching a game, and it came down to the fourth quarter. He was doing what Kobe does best in the fourth quarter, took over the game. And at the time I was probably like 10 years old, and he was being interviewed, and they asked him, how do you handle this type of pressure? And he said, I live for these moments. I want the game to come down to the ball being in my hands. And I remember asking my dad, like, what's the difference between someone like him who can rise to the pressure and some of these other athletes who were saying, like, get the ball out of my hands?
Right.
And my dad goes, I don't know, figure it out. So I started looking into psychology and learning about psychology. And my senior year of high school, we finally had a sports psychology class offered to us. And I didn't even fully understand at the time that it was its own realm. And through that, I started to learn about my own experiences in sports, like how I handled when I was injured, or that pressure, or the feeling of burnout. Where was this coming from? And it started to help me understand myself better. So when I went to college, I was only planning on majoring in psychology, really looking at child development overall. And then I realized that we had a really good sports psychology program. So I ended up switching over. So now I have a minor in psychology and child development, which is fine.
Of course.
And so, right, I'm like, that's fine. And so being able to work with athletes through, more so once I got into grad school, so Olympic hopefuls and professional athletes, high school athletes, college athletes, because especially what society has been talking about a lot, especially through these last Olympics, is how much of sports is mental.
Right.
Like we look at the entire situation with Simone Biles,
yes.
And to even now, people not understanding that that's mental. Being
right.
able to push yourself and your body to the limit continually under high pressure is hard.
Right.
And it can wear on you. And in her case, if she loses focus at any point, she could hurt herself permanently, paralyze herself, kill herself.
Exactly.
And so even when you look at the NFL and Aaron Rodgers talking about, took a break, I needed to focus on my mental health. And I think people look at entertainers as just that, entertainers, and they forget the human piece of it. And so, yes, I work with athletes, but my skill set also allows me to work with entertainers or performers, or like I work with the military. They're people who perform at very high levels under a lot of pressure,
right,
with very real consequences. And so how do you stay focused through that? How do you stay confident when you have no idea what's about to happen, but you have people following you? And then how do you deal with that pressure, that anxiety on a regular basis?
Right. And not to get off of the subject of you, but when you mentioned Simone, the in the Olympics, I am glad that right off the bat that I have the mindset that I knew exactly what she was going through, and I didn't misconstrue like, oh, what are you doing? You're letting the team down. I knew it. I'm like, you know what? You have to be, you don't know what she's going through, and she's not going to sit there, and she doesn't have to put everything out there and tell you what mentally might be pressing her, or if she just doesn't feel something may not be, you just don't know. There's many variables. So she has a right to step back and say, you know what, if I know that I'm not going to be 100% in regards to my mentality, and like you said, even Kobe, he talked about mentality, the mama mentality. It's like, if you don't have your mind right, no, you're not going to perform right, or you leave yourself, open a higher probability for injury. So we don't want that, and then if she came in anyway just to quiet the critics, then she gets hurt, then they're going to talk about that, oh, how sad it is and her career's over. Okay, just to satisfy you. And I'm not trying to sound insensitive to anyone, but at the same time, you just, like you said, it's a common narrative that people forget, the human aspect to these high performers. So that's amazing.
Right. And especially, I was going to say, especially with Simone Biles' history with that team and that organization, to me, it especially didn't feel like the right, if you're not mentally there, it's not worth risking it exactly for other people who unfortunately didn't look out for her when she needed it the most to begin with.
Right.
But being able to have that mindset, it really was hard. And I was talking to a lot of sports psychology friends through that time period. It was hard for us sitting back and going, do you guys really not get it? Do you not get that there is a mental, like a mind-body connection in what we're all doing? Not just these athletes, but ourselves. We talk about anxiety and it has these physiological effects on our body. It's the same thing.
Right.
There's people it hasn't clicked yet for everybody.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And it's totally, yeah. But you know what? We have, fortunately, we have extraordinary people like yourself that is continuously in different ways planting those seeds out there. So hopefully some will get it, because you just never know. You hear something enough, maybe your initial response is still to block it out and say, no, I just don't get it. But I have a saying, never underestimate the power of planting seeds. So you just keep putting that out there and sharing your perspectives and insights. And, sometimes people will, that knowledge will swirl around in that head and they'll get it. But you know what? She helped me, understand. Ashley helped me understand, what, that, yeah, there's a mental aspect and I understand now. So that's why another reason why I appreciate you being here, so we can further get that mindset out there. So I mean, there's just so much here that you're accomplishing. How do you even, I wasn't even going to say this, but how do you make time for all this? I mean, I know you're passionate, but you have a family. I mean, how do you make time we'll get to that. Okay, next, you work with the military. How did that come about? Were you in the military?
No, I was not in the military. Both my grandfathers served, but that's the closest to us and our family, and they both served in World War II. So way before I was around. So the military are actually the #1 employers for sports psychologists, because you look at the military, at police, at firefighters as essentially like tactical athletes. They need to be physically fit, but they also have to be mentally prepared for whatever happens. And so they hire a lot of sports psychologists to help with things like confidence, help teach how to be good leaders, I spend a lot of time talking about dignity and respect. And I spend a lot of time talking about just what we were talking about with athletes, that performance anxiety piece. So how do you calm those nerves, embrace those butterflies when you're feeling anxious? Or how do you build resilience? How do you not jump to conclusions as much as possible, or have effective conversations? I think surprisingly, one of the skills that I work with the military the most on is because a lot of them shut down their emotions, how to be there for the people that you care about when things are going right. Because we know that's a bigger determinant of the strength of a relationship than being there when things are going wrong. And so how do you show up for those people in your lives when you do have a lot on your plate and you are really stressed? And then we also work with the family members as well. So it's an interesting job for sure. Um, I have learned so much about the military, but I've also gotten really cool experiences like getting to watch a bunch of tanks fire or
Wow.
the
I
the
like to see
planes
that.
take off. Yeah, it's like, so it's a cool jump. It's a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
I can imagine so. And like you said, the experiences and just the knowledge and just the experience, just keep it simple, that you're gaining from being around these different, the athletes, the military, and just it just makes you an all more of a well-rounded person and just more understanding about how other people feel, and that just adds to your resume and your repertoire and your power and ability to impact people. And I think that's amazing.
Absolutely. It just
Yes.
makes me better. They
Wow.
definitely keep me on my toes. That's for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. So so what is this conference that you're presenting at, and what are you presenting? Okay.
So this year, I'm presenting on the military and my experience being embedded. So, being embedded means instead of having an office in some corner of the installation, I actually am housed inside of a battalion. So, I'm responsible for roughly 600 soldiers and their mental toughness and resilience. And so, the Applied Association of Sports Psychology is essentially the governing committee for all sports psychologists internationally.
Wow.
And so I will be presenting on some of my roles working, being embedded. I have a panel as well as a workshop I'll be doing on just what is it like being in this environment, especially as a woman in a predominantly male field. What is that like? How do I build rapport? How do I deal with ethical dilemmas? How do I make sure that I'm not crossing any lines, but being there to the best of my ability? And then
Absolutely.
also, what are some misconceptions about working with the military? Because I know when I first started, I thought I needed to be super, super serious and strict. No,
Right.
we
Right.
joke around all the time, and that is the best way to get people on your
Right.
side and to listen to you.
Right. And
So
feel comfortable. Yes. Yes.
exactly. And give others some of that guidance that I didn't have, because for a lot of people in our field, working with the military is the first step before they can be on like professional teams or work with universities. And so coming out of grad school, a lot of us didn't have that mentorship. We were just kind of thrown to the wolves and told to figure it out. And so again, giving back and sharing some of that knowledge with younger psychologists coming up and mental coaches coming up.
Wow. That is absolutely amazing. And thank you for telling us about your experiences and how that come about. Uh, can you tell us a little bit about okay, you have a podcast called Hoop Mentality. Could you elaborate a bit more on that? The Hoop Mentality?
So this was a podcast with some friends. They have their own channel and they wanted to kind of diversify their content a little bit more. And so they pitched to me an idea of talking about mental health in sports. And so it's been a really fun experience talking about some of the behind the scenes stuff. So I did an episode, for example, on the breakdown of the USA basketball team, men's basketball team, and why they originally weren't clicking because of
Right.
the different personalities. And I think we look at, as a society in general, look at sports a lot as just the physical performance. But
Right.
there are, again, so many different components that lead to the end result that we see. And so bringing on not just other sports psychologists or mental coaches, but also bringing in coaches and athletic trainers. And I have friends who do things like they're the behind the scenes people that coordinate the games. So all
Okay.
of the moving pieces that go into what we finally see on our TV screen, because
Wow.
it's not as simple as, oh
Yes.
yeah, you can make a free throw, it's good. But
Right.
not, and even though it's called hoop mentality, I'm looking at all different kinds of sports. So I did some talk about, for instance, Simone Biles or the Shakari Richardson situation, because that all
Right.
comes down to them not having the proper components to support their mental health.
Wow, that is totally amazing. And like you said, there is a lot of things behind the scenes. and that's what basically in all aspects of life, with things that are presented out there, you don't see the struggles and the crashes and the mistakes behind the scene. Before you get it, it's already went through several, gates, if you will. And that's amazing that you're a part of that process. And I commend you on that. I mean, you have so much going on, and I know that there's even more that you have so much. How did you get into working with, I believe you say Special Olympics? How did you get into that? How are you opening up all these doors?
I worked, actually starting again when my parents had me volunteering very young. A lot of the time it was with other kids, but these kids typically had disabilities like autism, or were wheelchair bound, or just different, right? Going through different struggles. And I really started to enjoy that when I did the AmeriCorps and taught literacy. Right outside of my office was the special needs classroom. And so most of the time I spent in there when I had free time. And the students were just so much of a joy to be around. And so when I came back to go to grad school, I was looking for ways to volunteer, looking for ways to reach out. And originally I wanted to work for the Special Olympics as a part of their corporate organization. So I was introduced to track legend Rafer Johnson, who was the president at the time. And he encouraged me to start volunteering. When I lived in LA, we had the Special Olympic World Games. So athletes from, I believe it was 57 countries, were all in LA competing. And it is the most inspirational experience, I think, just really looking at how they overcome challenges, how they keep pushing, how they kept fighting, and even just having conversations, them getting really excited. I always laugh because they exchange pens, and everyone always asks me like, oh, what countries did you get? And I'm like, the athletes asked for them, I gave them to them, I don't have any more. But just having that experience. And so after the World Games left, I started coaching track and field, and just continuing that relationship with it, because it's something that I think we all need to do things and have hobbies that bring us joy, that we get nothing else out of it than just making us happy.
Right.
And that's how I feel about being involved with Special Olympics. It just makes me happy. It's motivating, it's exciting, and you don't experience as much pure joy in society anymore as watching these athletes compete.
Right. And I think that's very important. I mean, oftentimes people are looking for happiness in some sort of tangible material object in regards to like money. And there's nothing wrong with money. Don't get me wrong. Money will enhance your life, Yeah. But at the same time, what you're talking about, you can't put that's priceless, when you're doing something that fills you with joy and inner peace, by pouring out into other people, and then watching, their struggles and their happiness and everything. That right there, that's sustained happiness. That's genuine happiness right there within yourself. Like, you're not waiting again for. Oftentimes people are waiting for a particular thing to happen, or to have a certain house or a car before they're happy, but you're creating your own happiness from within yourself and pouring it out into other people. And that right there, that is definitely the definition to me of true happiness. And that's amazing. It's a proper representation of happiness, that it comes from here, your gifts, your passions, and basically your service to other people, and everything else will fall into place. It does. When your intentions or mindset are in that abundance in all aspects, will fall into position. You'll be taken care of, and that's what people need to understand. So I'm glad that you're testifying that and reaffirming that for me, and as well as the audience here. So that's beautiful. So when I upload this video, this segment to YouTube. Of course, I'm going to have any links that you provided me. I'm going to put it in the description. But while we're here, how can people find out about your cause or whatever you have going on?
So AB Mentality on all platforms. So abmentality.com on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. There's also an Etsy page where you can check out workbooks that I've created to do things like build gratitude or set goals. Or if you are an athlete who, I'm not going to lie, sessions get expensive. There's a workbook coming out for athletes to get those same mental skills without having to pay for every single session. So AB Mentality across the board is the easiest way to get in contact with me. Even email abmentality@gmail.com.
Wow. And thank you for sharing that. And like I said, it's going to be up in the description of the video. Let me rewind a little bit. I wanted to ask you this, back to this question I didn't forget. How do you manage to juggle, balance all this? I myself think that you have a team of publicists, secretaries, managers. I mean, how are you able to balance all this that you have going on? How?
Two things. So a friend of mine, actually a sorority sister of mine, reminded me that we're juggling things every day, right?
Right.
And some of those things are glass balls and some of those things are rubber balls. So being able to determine in any moment, what are the rubber balls that I can drop and I can rebound from and come back from if I screw this up? And what are the glass balls? Those are my priorities because I can't let those go. And so sometimes that is meeting with the client, and sometimes it's going to visit my family and turning my phone off for a weekend and just being able to take it, try to plan as much for it as I can, and then being able to understand that not everything's a priority, because when everything becomes a priority, nothing is. So what's most important to me in this moment? And then the second thing is not being afraid to ask for help. Sometimes we can't do it by ourselves. So I will call my brothers and they'll help me out, or especially at work, I have a team there's 4 of us that work really well together. So if I have a bunch of stuff going on, I know that they have my back at work. So just being able to not be afraid to speak up.
I knew there was a team somewhere. See.
Oh no, at work I can't do it by myself.
No, I get it.
I mean,
I
we
get
split
exactly
about 7,000 soldiers, so it's a lot. But
I get it.
Yeah.
And we all know when you're in the mindset that you're in and you got these things going on, that you are going to develop and attract and cultivate, people around you. I like to call them mastermind people that you can go to and get some feedback and some encouragement and some insight. So yeah, that's just a given. And I tell people that all the time. It'll come. Don't, you keep following your path and doing everything with that, with those intentions that you have, and things will fall into place. I mean, I have a lot of people that I can call upon and seek advice and help, like you said. And when you're doing things, like what you're doing, like you said, you're gonna need help. And and you can't just think, well, no, I want it all to myself, and I want it that way. I don't have to say that anyone help me. No, nope. See how far you get thinking that way. So
right. I'd rather put out the best product than to just have to feel like it's all on me.
All on me. That's right. Exactly. So before we conclude this segment, are there any final words, ideas, anything that you would like to say before we close?
I think just embracing where you are. I think the last almost 2 years with this pandemic has been really hard on people mentally. So just a reminder to give yourself some grace and appreciate the growth that I think everyone has had over the last year. We focus so much on all of the negative, but focus on the growth, because growth only happens when we're pushed a little bit to our limits. And I think if we are willing to, everyone can come out of this better than they went into it, but you just have to be willing to being open for that.
Wow. And I want to close with that, but I have to elaborate on it. I just have to. That's where this show cultivated from, the whole pandemic. I was looking for ways to reach people, and it just inspired me. Let me start this platform. And, I had a lot of time to myself to develop the mindset, the consciousness to get it going, because I take this very seriously. I'm not just doing this for fame or for myself. I mean, that's nice. When people say, "Oh, I know you, I follow you," that is, but nothing substitutes, like you said, the happiness the enjoy it gives me from just relating to people and showcasing their passions and seeing how happy they are. That energy just pours out into me, and it's just like I said, it just expands and prospers, and just a win-win situation, just all across the board. Not just win-win as far as anything material, but just win-win, and just making me feel just good. Overall good. You can't
Positive
substitute
emotions
that.
are contagious.
Right. So you get it. And I hope everybody else does too. But thank you very much, Ashley, for, again, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for being here today and sharing your amazing just insight, goals, projects, passions with us, and keep doing what you're doing, because it's obviously working. You have a glow about yourself. You have a very just insightful way that you articulate yourself. Is very just, I don't want to say it the wrong way, but you sound very, it's very intellectual the way you speak, but at the same time, it's very, you deliver it all in layman's terms for people like me. I can understand exactly what you're saying without you losing me in your highly intellectual mindset. Wow. So thank you very much. And when this is up, you'll hear from me, and I hope to see you again on this platform again, because I know you're going to continue to have so many things unfold and manifest for you. I know it. I don't think, I know. So thank you very much. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And I hope you, I know, I'm going to say, I know and have faith that you're going to appreciate this show as much as I did, if not more. Thank you. Peace, love, and happiness, appreciation, abundance, healthiness to everybody. See you soon here on Enlightened, Empowered, Evolved. Peace.